Processes are the highest caliber. I don't make decisions lightly. I look at all the facts first. And it has to be best interest of the people and the community. This community is rich with land and people, and we have to exploit this. We have to start looking into the future, not just tomorrow, but we have to look into the next 5 years. So back to why I'm here. Because we all know the situation that the community is going to be based in the next few years. Collectively, this town has to come up with some great ideas for some survivability in the future with increasing medical taxes, increasing retirement payments to 4 to 8 percentiles to the Kamaloht, which everybody knows is coming. So based on the Proposition 2.5 base tax increase that happens on excise tax and property tax, you don't need to be smarter than a 5th grader to see this town will be in trouble in 5 years. This is why I'm stepping up. I do have a plan. Might not be a good plan, but you know, it's something going forward that I think that hopefully if I do get elected, I can put forward. I'd like to put a committee together, kind of like a think tank, so to speak, using the decision-making processes that are out there. Also using local government as well as state government, because the state really has got a lot of people out there to help, which will consist of a member of the school committee, a member of the advisory board, and 3 very motivated residents of Templeton. This way we can receive the facts, and it can represent the Board of Selectmen in its review. This is a priority for the town for future survival. We need smart people that make smart decisions in the best interest of the people and the community, with no agendas. I am that person. I can make decisions, and I will make the people proud of their choice, so please make the right choice for change. You know, God bless you all, and God bless America. Thank you.
The question that I asked earlier about the interim, I mean, it's been somewhat answered by the previous two, and I'd like to get your cut on the interim since we've gone through this.
Well, the fact that the townspeople voted for the interim person, the town spoke and voted. I think it was at the open town meeting, wasn't it, that we voted, or one of the select board?
For a town administrator.
It was.
Not an interim.
But the people voted for the interim person.
No. No, they do not vote for the interim person.
No, the selectmen voted for the interim person.
Yes.
But didn't the people vote? If I remember correctly, the people voted for something.
They voted for a town administrator back a couple of years ago.
Right, so then the select board said, we're gonna do an interim. I got it now, okay. I'm tracking now. How I think it should be, you know, I think we need a full-time town administrator. That's the bottom line. I mean, they put money aside for the headhunting company to go out there and start headhunting. I mean, go headhunt. Go find somebody that's gonna fit the bill. I mean, you can't, you can work from Charlestown 2 days a week. And he's doing a great job. I mean, he is. And day-to-day operations, I think most of the town board of selectmen now, they're doing awesome, I think. But I think they still need a full-time person in that seat. Does that answer your question? Yes, ma'am.
When people, it's been more than one time, maybe more than 5 times,
Yes.
that people stood in front of us and said that they are going to try to bring business into our community. And everyone latches on with such great hope. I do have to give you so much credit for the good job you've done as a veterans agent.
Thank you.
I've never heard anyone say anything bad about what you do. Being a selectman would be the hardest job you probably face. It's not easy, trust me. I'd like to see your plan. I know lots of plans have been tried. Lots of people have said the same thing. An empty seat as a select board said that, 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
And here we are. We lost all our industry. If anyone could bring industry in, we'd be more than happy. Tommy and Luann, East Templeton could use some industry.
Yeah, but you have to be really careful with industry as well.
Yeah.
Industry is great. I'm looking at small industry, not like conglomerate industry, because obviously small industry is better. It's better for the community to keep that small town America going, because that's why we moved here. I don't want I don't want big things here in town. I don't want traffic lights. I don't want rotaries and stuff like that. I want to keep it the way it is. But I definitely want some, I mean, we had a great opportunity to have Stop and Shop, I guess, some time ago. I mean, I wasn't around, or I was around, but I really didn't know too much about it at that time, so I don't know what happened. All I do know is that people voted it down, I guess. That's all I do know, or something along those lines. But I do know that there's other companies out there, other businesses that are out there, other food chains that are out there that are always looking for demographical areas where they can place themselves in competition with other vendors. I like Stop and Shop and Price Choppers, and there's a lot of them out there. Yes, sir.
You mentioned a think tank committee.
Yes.
Can you tell me how that differs from the capital planning committee that seems to have a hard time getting a
Well,
quorum?
I think the capital planning committee, and I think Doug could probably get this for me, answer this question for me, but I think that it's more like equipment, how they plan for a future, like, police cars and excavators and dump trucks, and what the different departments are going to need as far as capital planning.
And your is what?
Mine is more so looking at the tax rate, the way it is, how it's going to go up 2.5% each year, and how, if you look at the different tax increases between 5 to 7 to 8% increases that happen, and not to mention the Cadillac tax, which is going to be coming very soon, which we don't know what that cap's going to be, between 4 and 9%, and some towns it's going to be higher, which is a mandated tax payment, which people don't know about, which is coming very soon, on top of all the other stuff that's happening, which Jeff pointed out already, with the school bill coming into play, the police station coming up the next couple of years. All these things are going to be coming up, all these new bills coming in. I mean, how is this town going to have survivability in the future? And I'm not talking about just 2017 and I'm talking about using free cash already. I'm talking about in 5 years, 2022 from now. And how are we going to build ourselves from there? And I'm only here if I do get elected, I'm only here for 3 years. So, I hope I can make a footprint and hopefully get something started. I mean, I'm not the savior, but at least I'm educated enough to see that there's an issue on the table here, and hopefully we get some resolved. Yes, Will.
Now you brought it up about the 2.5% going up every year. The advisory board did look at that, and unbeknownst to a lot of folks, if we just raise the tax rate without any overrides, debt exclusions,
Right.
between now and 2020,
Right.
our tax rate will be going up about $2.
Yeah.
That's about 50 to 60 cents
Right.
a year.
I did an analysis to myself. Again, I'm not smarter than 5th grade, believe me, I'm really not. My son Jeffrey had to help me. But I did the 2.5%. I looked at all the increases in tax values that are coming up. And in order for us to sustain ourselves by 2022, our tax rate will be around $24 a thousand. And again, I don't have to be smarter than 5th grade. So obviously something has to get done. And I'm not the savior. I'm going to be willing to work with everybody, Doug, everybody. I mean, I definitely want to, I'm still learning this process. I'm new here.
Are you saying that's not high enough or too much, $24?
I think it's a little too much, yeah. I think that's too much. I don't want to live, well, I wouldn't want to live here at $20 a ton.
I wouldn't dispute that figure one way or the other, but I will say this, and I bet nobody in this room agrees with me, that probably the reason you moved here, and a lot of people moved here, is because of the low tax rate. But my opinion is the tax rate in this town, the town files before us didn't do us any favors by keeping the tax rate so low for so long.
You're right.
Now we're up here, we can't get to where we need to be.
Right.
We don't have a decent fire department, we don't have a decent police station.
Right.
The town barn is full of junk trucks and so on and so forth. We have no more rubbish collection. I can go on and on and
No,
on.
you're right.
How do we get to where we need to be? Probably $24 isn't enough. But at the same time, I'll hear the argument, well, what about the people on fixed income? They can't afford it. How do you deal with that?
Well, I'm in the same boat. I'm on a fixed income myself.
Nobody likes to pay taxes, but we need some services.
We definitely need-
some decent
Right.
services in this town.
No, yeah, I'm not going to disagree. I'm
So
not going to disagree. And again, I'm open to,
how do you deal with that?
I have two.
hope I won't be.
Yeah, you make
Hope my
up.
term will be over by then.
You know.
I'm not sure. I mean, these are all great questions. I don't have all the answers. I don't. I'll be the first one to admit I don't have all the answers, but at least I know enough going forward enough to be dangerous, where I know that there is a problem. The problem has been identified, and and it's being dealt with, but we have to look forward.
We can't keep cutting our way to
No.
fiscal responsibility.
No, we
It
can't.
just doesn't-
No,
can't
we
be
can't.
done.
No, it can't. No, it's like balancing a checkbook with a dollar. Every single time you get paid, you just can't do it. Especially when you get bills that are $50 at a time. So it just can't happen. But you're right, Tom. Any other questions? Want to be bashful. All right, thank you very much for your time.
And Board of Selectmen, 3-year term, Julie M. Farrell.
All right, back again, this time to talk about Board of Selectmen. I was recently asked what I would do if I were elected to the Board of Selectmen. And if I were elected to the Board of Selectmen, my priorities would be to get our finances in order, which is no small task, so that our bond rating can be restored. I would like to vote to support to restrict the use of free cash when and if it's certified by the Department of Revenue to capital expenditures, as outlined in Templeton's capital plan. I would support a review of our bylaws and the creation of a government study committee or charter for the form of government that we have in Templeton. I believe we had a form of government committee a few years ago, and there wasn't funding to continue with that. They wanted $8,000 to have the Collins Institute come in and help them present it. We have moved to a town administrative form of government. That was one of the recommendations in the Department of Revenue review, management review that was done in 2009. That took 4 years. Anything in this town takes time to accomplish. It just takes a long time. So I don't expect a charter review or a bylaw committee or a government study committee to be able to work quickly, and I believe it's going to need financial resources to accomplish its goal. But I think it's a needed step that the town needs to take to outline and define the duties and responsibilities of each department, of a town administrator, or if we do a charter, to a town manager. If elected, I would support and welcome public input at selectmen's meetings. I'm going to talk a lot about finance and free cash. When I talk about finance and free cash, a lot of it is details. A lot of what you do as a selectman is a lot of details. And behind those details represent the amount of money that you have to provide services to the taxpayers who are footing the bill. So there are always people behind the figures. And you really can't lose sight of that. It's like this sacred trust that this is public money, and you need to be open and honest and upfront about what you're doing with that money. We're always going to have more needs than we have money. It's just a reality. I believe that by using free cash for the capital plan will be one way to be more proactive than reactive. For the past couple of years, when I was on the board, we were always brought up, there would be an equipment problem at the highway department, and they needed a piece of equipment. And the only source of funding that we could use for that piece of equipment was Chapter 90 money. Never a popular decision. Chapter 90 money should be used to repair the roads. That's what it should be used for. Raise your hand if you live on a road that you feel needs to be repaired. Okay, anybody? Okay. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. There's never enough money to go around. And to use Chapter 90 money to buy a piece of equipment is really unpopular. But sometimes you really need that piece of equipment, and that's the only money that you have available. That's why those votes get taken. And that leaves you less money to repair your roads. If you use free cash if you set it aside into a capital stabilization account, we have a capital stabilization account. We've had one for a number of years, and it has no money in it. We need to start putting aside money so that when there's an issue or a problem or a crisis, we can implement the plan, the capital plan, and replace equipment for highway, for the police, the fire department, okay, to buy vests for the police department, okay? That's part of the capital plan. We don't have enough money in our operating budget to do that. Okay? That's something that we need to do. The air tanks for the fire department need to be replaced. Okay, these are expensive pieces of equipment, and they're vital, they're necessary for the fire department to do their job. That's part of the capital plan, but we don't have money in the capital plan to fund that. I believe part of our problems, our financial problems, started back when we were using free cash, I believe inappropriately. And I was on the board, and I spoke out against it, and got voted down, so it happens. I believe that free cash, when it is certified by the DOR, it's not something that we certify, it's something that the Department of Revenue makes available to us. That's not going to be available to us for a while, because we need to get our audits done for 13, 14, and 15. We've had a lot of transition and a lot of change. In addition to a town administrator, we've combined the collector and treasurer position, okay, and we have a new accountant. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. The records in the accounting department have to be rebuilt. What happened, one of the things that I believe that led to our financial issue and our financial crisis was that we were trying to use one accounting software called City and Town that was no longer supported. And the data in that, toward the end, was corrupt. And then we tried to merge it into Vadar, which is our new system, accounting system. And that didn't work. Some years we've used over $800,000 in free cash, which was to supplement the operating budget. And the next year, we only had $380,000 of free cash, which was used to supplement the budget. There was a $500,000 gap. Free cash is a number that you never know from year to year what it's going to be. So I believe that free cash should be set aside into a capital stabilization fund and used for capital projects. One of the things that I would like to do if I am elected, our bylaws need a major overhaul. I believe Selectman Haley Brooks brought that up at the last meeting. This is a huge undertaking. Our bylaws, there are conflicts between our bylaws, and there are conflicts between our bylaws and state statute. Okay? This is something that I don't believe can be done part-time. I really don't. It's a huge undertaking. I would support either a government study committee or a charter review committee. We do not have a charter. We have our bylaws. That's what we have to go by. And when your bylaws are not consistent or in agreement with state statute, you run into a lot of problems. Over the years, I've submitted a number of citizens' petitions to amend our bylaws, and this year is no different. I make the attempt to locate these amendments in appropriate places within our bylaws that already exist. This year, one of my proposals is to amend Article 6, contracts by town officers, and to add a new section. All contracts with the value of $100,000 or more shall be reviewed by town council before said contracts are signed. Now that sounds like a reasonable request. Doesn't seem like you should have to write that down. The reason for this bylaw amendment is that the contract for the new school, it was about a $50 million contract, was not reviewed by town council before it was signed. If elected, I will continue to read documents before I sign them and insist that contracts of this magnitude are reviewed by town council. If elected, I will welcome and support public participation at selectmen's meetings. I think that's vital and important. Sometimes you can work in a bubble. And while it's televised, which I think is a major improvement from when I first got elected, you still need to welcome people to your meetings. And if they have questions, you should allow them to speak. In closing, I want to state that the voters of this election are very fortunate to have 4 quality candidates from which to choose. And I would appreciate your vote, a vote for Julie Farrell on May 2nd. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm on the long-range capital planning committee, and I know that Doug and I met with many of the department heads, and we were very interested to hear about their needs. And you've mentioned several here. You mentioned the breathing apparatus for fire. You've mentioned the protective vests for the police. There's also a fingerprinting system. There's the COA that needs siding and it needs a kitchen and it needs, you know, and we've, you know, the cemetery commission wants to do a long-range study. There are a lot of very good things. And I asked the town administrator, Bob Markham, I said, why don't I see, at least, so, I mean, I realize that the idea of long-range planning is that you can't do everything at once, but why aren't I seeing these as articles on the town warrant for the upcoming ATM? And he said, well, we're not going to do them at the ATM, but at the special town meeting in the autumn. And, you know, by then, he's suggesting that we're going to have our audits done. I know that 113 has begun, at least the initial process is underway, and we still have 2 more years that we have to process. And I think we have, and Doug can correct me, about $15,000 in capital planning account, something like that, which is nothing, I know. You know, when somebody needs the police department also wants a new cruiser, or somebody, you know, as you say, the highway department is always in need. But what I'm asking is, how would you approach this project? Do you think these are realistic projections that Bob Markle or the selectmen are making? And if not, what would you think would work so that we can get some of these departments, some of these vital things that they need? I mean, the vests are vital. Under federal law, every 5 years they have to be replaced because after 5 years they are not effective. You know, the breathing apparatus, that's vital. We have a lovely COA building which looks lovely inside, but it doesn't have very nice siding, and there's no elevator, for example. And it is on 2 floors. So I'm just wondering if you could address some of those concerns. Thank you.
Well, I believe that we need to wait until free cash is certified, put it in a capital stabilization fund. Town meeting has to do that, and it takes a 2/3 vote. And then look at the capital plan that you and Doug have worked very hard on for a number of years, okay? And prioritize how much money we have in the capital stabilization account, and then bring that up at a special town meeting or at an annual town meeting for the voters to decide what they want to spend that money on, because it takes a 2/3 vote to get the money out of that account as well.
Julie, my question is the same as I've asked all the rest of them about the town administrator and the interim, as to your thoughts as to we really need somebody in a management position here on a full-time basis, and that's really my whole question of, because I see we've gone 2 years already with the interim, and we're going into a third. It just seems too long to be doing that, and I want your thoughts on that.
Well, I agree, but in Templeton, it seems to take a long time to do anything. That's what I've found. It just, you know, it took a long time to create the town administrator position and to get it voted at town meeting. I don't believe that the amount of money that we have budgeted, which I believe is $80,000 still for the position, is enough to hire a qualified town administrator in this market. Winchendon just hired a new town manager, and that was at 122, and it's probably gone up since then. If you look around you, I don't think we're going to be competitive. So there's that portion of it. Then there's the portion that we do have money set aside to do the search. I don't know if we have enough money set aside to do a full, extensive search. And I think it's going to be very difficult to attract a qualified candidate if you don't have free cash certified, you don't have your audits done, and you don't have a bond rating. I think those are in, you know, the negatives. That's all I'm saying. Okay? So I can see continuing with an interim until we are on more financial stable ground, and then look at what we really do need to do for a salary. And part of that could be from either a charter committee or a government study committee, and to look at our bylaws and figure out what do we want to be when we grow up. We're only, what, 250 years old? Yeah.
How many hours did you work painting town hall?
I have no idea, I didn't keep track. Yeah.
Same 2 questions on the school and big business, or any business, I guess, and unifying the town versus dividing the town, and what are your plans for big business?
I don't think we can operate as Templeton itself, looking out to recruit businesses to come in. I think that's something that we need to do regionally. I think we're too small. This section of Massachusetts, we're the first to hit by any recession, and we're the last to recover. And I'm not even sure we recovered from the last one. So that's the approach I would take, is something regional and work on that, in that direction. I don't see any other way to attract business to town. The mall at Templeton, that was an awesome idea. But when you looked at the cost of trying to provide sewer to the mall at Templeton, there was a study that was done, a consultant was hired. It was going to cost $7 million to bring sewer down, and the Mass Grant project would not fund that. So we seem to run into these obstacles, and then there are parcels of land that have water and sewer, but seem to be, I don't know, they're not moving. You know, there's 2 huge tracks off of Bolivar Road. There's 252 and the one across the street. Those, I mean, I don't know how better it gets for access to Route 2. All right, and you know, that's like a no-brainer. I don't know what kind of company would come into town. I personally have advocated for a Trader Joe's. It hasn't happened. I'm sick of driving. All right. And for the school was voted in by the townspeople. I believe that the location is a poor location, but you know, it is what it is, and you have to follow through and do what the people voted.
No, I agree that the location is probably poor at best, but it is what it is. And I think we need to unite the town rather than divide it.
Well,
And
I
get
think,
behind and
yeah,
move forward.
that's what has to happen. Any other questions? No? Thank you for coming. Thank you for your time.
Okay, I'd like to remind you that there is an informational meeting at the town hall this evening regarding the replacement project of the Pleasant Street sewer station. Sewer Superintendent Ken Songer stated that he will be available following candidates night to answer all questions up at the town hall. This concludes this evening's candidates presentation. You are all invited for light refreshments and an opportunity to talk to the candidates on an individual basis. Thank you for your attendance this evening.